All right, everybody, welcome back to yet again another season preview. We move on today with the Chicago Blackhawks, a team who is arguably going to be the worst team in the entire NHL next season. They're definitely on the race for Connor Bedard, and things are definitely looking interesting for this Blackhawks team. Obviously, in the 2021 offseason, I said that Chicago was idiots for trading for Seth Jones, trading away Adam Boquist, because they thought they were going to be good that coming year. And it kind of stabbed him in the butt. The allegation stuff finally came out, and everything just kind of fell apart for this team overall, and I think it's only going to get worse from here. But anyways, looking at last season, they went 28, 42, and 12 with 68 points. They scored 219 goals and only let in 291, and they missed the playoffs. So they didn't score with Patrick Kane with 26 goals, 66 assists for 92 points. Apart from that, it was a pretty forgetful season. And your goaltender who played the most games was Marc-Andre Fleury, but obviously he was dealt to the Minnesota Wild. But he had a 19, 21, and 5 record with a 2.95 goals against average during his time there. Obviously, that was another controversial trade on both ends, honestly. I mean, it was on Vegas' end because, they didn't give up enough. And it was on Chicago's end because, they don't have the pieces to go on a cup run or do anything like that. So why did they get Fleury and then they just down him away anyways? So, I mean, overall, this team definitely had an eventful offseason. They lost some of their key players. Definitely some key players that were on this core. And it looks like there's absolutely going to be more players to come that are probably going to leave. And potentially Patrick Kane may be one of them, but we'll get into that later. Your departures, Alex DeBrincat, Dylan Strome, Kirby Dach, Dominic Kubalik, Calvin DeHaan, and Kevin Lankinen. So obviously, DeBrincat off to Ottawa for just a bunch of picks. Depending on how you look at it, that was a really bad trade, but depending on how you look at that, it was also a really good trade. So, you could look at it multiple different ways. They did get something in return, at least. It could have been worse. They could have gotten nothing, but they did get something. Dylan Strome obviously left through free agencies with the Capitals now. Kirby Dach obviously was traded in the draft. They got Frank Nazar for that pick. I think that pick is very underrated. I like Frank Nazar a lot. Dominic Kubalik obviously left as well. DeHaan signed a PTO with the Hurricanes, and Lankinen is with the Predators. So obviously, these players have gone different ways, and we got some new acquisitions coming in, definitely. There definitely are some new players added to this roster. Max Domi, Andreas Athanasiou, Colin Blackwell, Peter Mrazek, and Alex Stalock looks to be your goaltending tandem heading into next season. That is your goaltending tandem, but looks to be your acquisitions heading into next season. Obviously, Domi came from Carolina, and Athanasiou came from Los Angeles. I like these two moves, really, because these are two players who kind of struggled with teams that they were playing with, and these guys are probably at best fourth liners on teams like, let's say, Carolina, or, I don't know, like that's a prime example. Like, they'd be fourth liners on teams that are contending. But on teams that are rebuilding, these players are actually really good to have. And I think they definitely be probably honestly top 6 players on a team as weak as Chicago heading into next season. Obviously, Blackwell going to be a depth forward, nothing more than that. Mrazek and Stalock will likely be your goaltending tandem if we're being honest. I mean, they lost Lankinen, they lost Fleury, they lost Subban. Almost all those guys are gone. So, I mean, more or less, they have a whole new goaltending tandem heading into next season. And things are definitely looking interesting there. You look at their projected lineup, their top 6 is Max Domi, Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, Andreas Athanasiou, Tyler Johnson, and Taylor Radish. So obviously there you have a lot of Johnsons and Joneses on this freaking roster. I was looking at the roster and I was looking at the depth chart and everything. Holy crap, they have 3 Johnsons that are, to my knowledge, they aren't related to each other at all. And then you have 2 Jones, who are obviously the Jones brothers. But, holy crap, that's crazy. And, I had a feeling if I didn't put the names down, S. Jones or C. Jones, I would have definitely said some other Jones. And I was watching a preview from all the way back in 2020 when I previewed this team's season, and instead of Alex Nylander, I said William Nylander without realizing it. And I'm like, what? But anyways, obviously that top 6 is interesting. You got Toews and Kane on that on their first line. You're definitely Kane's without a doubt your best player. No matter how bad this team is, Kane will still be good. He's just that good of a hockey player. And there are looming rumors of him getting traded. I know there's that. Apparently there's been nothing new. There's been talks, but there's been nothing new, like trade requests or anything. Obviously, teams are calling up Chicago Edmonton was one of those teams. But obviously, no teams are really making a full stride for Patrick Kane. And I don't think that happens until probably the trade deadline. That's what I'm thinking. I don't think they trade for Kane right now. In fact, they really can't because, Kane has such a high salary. Teams that are, like, contending, it's going to be difficult. I've talked about this before, but Chicago definitely wants to trade Kane and, honestly, Taves as well. They definitely want to trade those two before they leave the free agency next year. Because if you lose him the free agency, this team is screwed. Like, you take even Kane out of this equation, this team is literally horrible. Like, they're just absolutely terrible. Kane is the reason. Kane kind of keeps them above water, even though they're kind of drowning already. But if you take Kane out of that roster, they're done for. So they definitely need to get at least something back for him. But, that's just talk for next year. But obviously, a guy like Taylor Raddysh looks really interesting. And a team like this definitely is going to get a chance with some of the younger or some of the players who really don't have NHL experience to really get in there and kind of prove their worth for a team like Chicago. And that's what I kind of like about rebuilding teams. Because, the same thing goes for Arizona. The same thing is going to go for San Jose. Not Philadelphia until they fire Fletcher. If you guys know me, I'm a Flyers fan. But, I like teams like this because you get to see players come in here and players that aren't really well known in the NHL or don't have a name for themselves and kind of surprising people sometimes. We've seen that example with teams like Arizona and many other teams like that. Your bottom six there, you have Phil Kurashev, Sam Lafferty, and Lucas Reichel. Then you have Jujhar Khaira, Colin Blackwell, and Mackenzie Entwistle. Then you have Boris Tkachuk, Reese Johnson, and Mike Hardman as some additional forwards. As I said, you got multiple young players on that roster. Reichel's the biggest one. Entwistle, Kurashev, Raddysh, Johnson, Tkachuk. You got or Tkachuk, I don't even know how you say it. It's not Tkachuk. It's not any of the Tkachuk brothers. That is a lot of young players. And I definitely think that, on a team like Chicago, they definitely will get a chance to prove their worth. And we'll see what they can do. But the one that I'm most hyped up for is definitely Lucas Reichel. He looks very good. And Raddysh has shown some signs of positivity last season when he played with Chicago in that little stint. So I would imagine maybe some good things would have come there as well. Your defense is even worse. You have Jake McCabe and Seth Jones as your first pairing. Then you have Jack Johnson and Corey Stillman as your second pairing. Then you have Connor Murphy and Caleb Jones as your third pairing. Then you have Vlasic and Stillman as your additional defenders. Forgot to mention Jack Johnson was also added to this team's roster as well. Completely forgot about him. That's my fault. Stanley Cup champion. It's a Bedard Bowl. But anyways, that defense just isn't good. There isn't really any good defensemen that are eye-opening there. It's really all just defensemen who aren't good anymore. Jones, I've spit it. If I didn't make a video on the trade because it was the day of the draft, but if that trade was on any other day, I would have freaking gone off. I was so mad at Chicago about that trade, and I'm not even a Blackhawks fan. It's just trade just makes me so mad. But anyways, you got guys like Vlasic in there. You got guys like Caleb Jones. You got some younger players on there, but it's mostly older type, more experienced players who aren't really all too good. But I would imagine guys like Alex Vlasic, maybe Alex Regula, Ian Mitchell, and Nicholas Bodine, maybe they get chances up there and play well. Maybe with Chicago. We'll see if they fit in their depth chart. Obviously, your goaltending team is Peter Mrazek and Alex Stalock. Not that good. I like both. Actually, I like both of those goaltenders, as a actual player. But if we're talking how good that tandem's gonna be, it's not gonna be good. No way. And then obviously your third string is Arvid Soderblom. So you got some just random goalie there. So who knows? Your biggest questions, will they be the worst team? Probably. There's really nothing else to it. This team has all around the worst roster, and teams like Arizona and San Jose and probably Philadelphia are definitely going to challenge them for that. But I definitely look at this team and I'm like, yeah, that's the worst roster. They're probably going to be the worst team this coming season. And the other question is, will the young guys perform? As I was saying, you got guys like Reichel, you got Raddysh, you have Reese Johnson, you have Boris Tkachuk, you have Alex Vlasic. You got some younger players on this core. At first, this team's not going to be that young. You got a lot of older players on this roster still, and they're kind of taking the same path Arizona did. It's their first year of being really bad and going all in for the rebuild. So they're kind of going to probably be as bad as Arizona was last year. But I definitely think young guys will definitely filter in. I mean, their prospect pool is solid. I mean, it's not solid, but I mean, you got some good guys in there already. And after next year, if they play their cards right, they already have a pick from Tampa Bay, and including their own, they definitely will get at least 2 solid prospects come next year's draft, which is looking to be pretty stacked on its own. You look at your point-o-meter according to the Hockey News' fantasy guide here. You have Kane leading the way with 90 points, and then you have a gigantic drop-off by almost 40 points. And you go down to Seth Jones at 54. Then you have another drop-off and go to Domi at 42, Taves at 40, and then you round off the top 5 with Reichel at 37. I like that Reichel pick. Definitely. Your sleeper or your bust is Max Domi, and I think that definitely is interesting. Max Domi, a 7-year NHL veteran, is on his 5th team. He's never lived up to his first-round status. He'll never get every opportunity. But he'll get every opportunity to put up career numbers playing across from Patrick Kane. Plus, he's UFA in 2023, so there's incentive. So, I mean, obviously, Domi has struggled on teams before. He went to Columbus. He struggled. The only team that I could say he actually had stabilized success with that isn't Carolina. He was okay with the Hurricanes. The only team that he had stabilized success with was Montreal, and I mean, even that wasn't the best success at all. So we'll see, but we'll see what's coming here for Max Domi and the Blackhawks. Their cup odds are 90-1. I would put it at 9 million to 1 because this team is not making the playoffs without a doubt. It's probably the worst roster in the whole NHL. And you look at their brass, all eyes will be on 53-year-old Richardson. The Ottawa native has been the assistant with Montreal the past 4 seasons, as well as the head coach of the AHL for 4 years. Luke Richardson had played 1,400 NHL games. King and fellow assistant Kevin Dean have both long playing and coaching backgrounds. After the beach scandal, Danny Wirtz and the son owner Rocky Wirtz taken a more active role. So obviously that management has changed a lot in the past year, 100% with the allegations going on. Bauman was fired. Everything kind of just fell apart there. Kalinin was fired. That was freaking horrible. I'm like, the players are teaching him how to do the. I don't even understand it. But yeah. Definitely, I mean, different management, 100%. Richardson's definitely interesting. I mean, he doesn't have the biggest role in the world. It's not like the team's making the playoffs are going to do anything really in that kind of realm. So really, his job is to kind of just drag him through the rough times, I guess. But anyways, I obviously said they're not making the playoffs. In 2021, I said no. And in 2022, I said no. So I was right there, even though people were saying, oh, they're making the playoffs. They're so good. No, they really weren't. No, they weren't. But yeah, I don't have Chicago making the playoffs. I don't think they make the playoffs. They're probably going to be that team that tanks. And we'll be back here probably in the middle of the season, maybe even before that, to talk about how either right or how wrong I was. And hopefully I'm wrong, because this team, Blackhawks fans have been through enough pain already with some of the stuff they experienced. But hey, they won 3 cups, so I guess I can't talk. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you all very much for watching. For Sports Late, I really do appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe down below if you're new. And anyways, thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.